Welcome to the Mystical Motherhood podcast. This is Chelsea, and I want you to create a happy family. I use my background in Western and Eastern medicine, birth, and ancient yogic practices to help the modern mother learn how to live a healthier life and create conscious children. This is your guide to fertility, conception, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and the early childhood years. Are you ready to live the life of your dreams? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Season 3 of the Mystical Motherhood podcast. I have an awesome guest today named Bridget Morris. She is a lifestyle blogger who inspires women to embrace their motherhood, their approach to wellness, fitness, and general style. She is soon to be a mother of 3, and she's here to talk about her amazing online course called Countdown to Baby, and that can be found at countdowntobaby.com, which educates and supports women through their pregnancy journey in a really, really conscious way. And so we have just an open discussion like I do on every single podcast about our life, and we jump right in to getting to know each other and talking about motherhood and consciousness and pregnancy and her new product, Countdown to Baby. Please go to the bio to get all of the links of how to find her on Instagram, on her personal website, and countdowntobaby.com. If you have any questions, reach out to me at mysticalmotherhood.com. Both of my books, Fertile and Mystical Motherhood, can be purchased on the first page of that. And if you'd like to set up a private session with me, reach out to me. You can also email me at mysticalmotherhood@gmail.com. And if you have any questions or you'd like a specific subject to be covered on this podcast, please email me. I'm always open to guests and features and different things that are happening in the world. And as we move into 2020, it's going to be a huge, massive year of growth. If you haven't gone through it, it's going to happen for you. So if you need any help, I'm here for you. Please enjoy as we jump right into a conversation here and then talk about Bridget's awesome educational platform. Bye-bye. And everything I've been doing, I've done in just 2 years.
Your books too?
2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Did you read my books?
I've only read them on Instagram, but I have them in my Amazon cart right
Read
now.
Read Fertile.
I mean, everything you post is like incredible.
Yeah,
like
Fertile's
so
really good.
Inspiring. I recommend it to like so many pregnant women because I just love I love how you talk about all the soul connecting and the consciousness and awakening and, you know, like you said, dropping the ego. And it's just, these conversations don't exist normally in like normal, you know, crowds.
No, they don't. Yeah. But that's my goal, is to get it out to women all over the world, you know, so that they can begin to realize that they are the conscious creators of the next generation and the genetic engineers of humanity.
100%.
But and just like being better humans, you know? So what's going on with you? So Bridget is here and she's an awesome mom and she is an awesome human being. And where do you live?
I live in Metro Detroit.
And tell us about your family. She's here and she's launching a business and she's going to tell us all about it and what she wants to do with mothers. And we're just going to have a conversation like I always have, that's from the heart and completely open to whatever happens. So tell me about your life and tell me what's going on.
Yeah, so I've been married for 7.5 years, and we have 2 children and one on the way, a 5-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. And we are expecting baby number 3 in March. Baby number 3 was a pleasant summer surprise.
Yeah.
So,
how did you guys meet?
We met through mutual friends. So my husband and I were just good friends for a while, and then it transitioned into best friends, and then inevitably we became, lovers.
Yeah, that's great. So how long did you date before you got married?
Oh gosh, over 5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were friends for a couple years, then we started dating, and then dated for about 5 years, and then got married. So we've been together for a long time.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So tell me about what you're doing. So you want to talk about your pregnancy, or do you have any questions for me, or you want to tell us about what's going on in your life?
Yeah, so this pregnancy is going well. Like I said, it was a surprise. So now I feel like I can totally relate to all the moms that have the surprise babies
Yeah.
because with my first two, it was very thought out. It was like I'm going on a preconception plan and I'm going to start taking my supplements and I'm going to go to acupuncture and I'm doing my journaling and
How did that go? I've never done, with all the work I do, neither of my babies were planned out at all consciously.
wow.
None. And so like maybe I'll have another one, but
Yeah.
I'm not there right now for sure. But
I think it went well because like I mean I got a boy and I got a girl and like I remember like doing even like writing out my visions for a daughter. I remember like doing spells for a girl because I really wanted one of each. That was like the vision I had. My husband really wanted a daughter and I really wanted one. And so I look back and I'm like it worked, like every it went well. And then the last couple of years we've just been adjusting to life with two. So as much as we loved the idea of a big family and a team and a squad, we weren't, consciously planning that. So
when you conceived this third child, I have a question. Did you call the child in when you were having intercourse?
No.
You didn't. Okay,
No.
because I did with my second. I did.
Wow.
I called it in and I said, "Oh, I'm calling the baby in." Like I knew, and then the next day I was like, "F!" Like mother, and I ran to the drugstore and I got the morning after pill,
Wow.
and it didn't work.
No, holy cow.
I know.
The crazy thing about our story is that in January I did a vision board and I put on the vision board a photo of me pregnant and a mom with like multiple kids behind her because I thought if it's going to happen I want it to happen this year.
Yeah.
But again, I mindfully, I mean, I that vision board is in my bathroom and I look at it and I get ready and I brush my teeth to it and do my makeup and it's right there. And I look back and I'm like, oh my God. And my husband even told me, he's like, you manifested this.
Yeah, you did.
You knew this was going to happen. You brought forth this baby.
Yeah.
So I guess in a way I did.
Yeah. So you're in that really creative place in pregnancy, which is the water element. So in my book, Fertile, I talk about this all the different elements. And if you haven't read Fertile yet, read it where you are right now. It will change your entire pregnancy.
I cannot wait.
But where typically we go through different elements. And so the element of water is where people are when they're pregnant. And water is the creative force. It's the creative energy. So it's also the very emotional element. So you can either go super, super emotional or you can take that energy and put it into creation. And so you somehow, when either women that's why you want to redo your home. That's why you want to, clean everything, or you have to somewhere put that creative force and that creative energy. So it sounds like you're putting it into a business, right?
Yeah.
What's going on?
So I started creating this when I got pregnant with Roman 5 years ago. And the whole way that this came about was during my, conscious conception and my pre-birth plan. I was, I was just seeing all these specialists, acupuncture therapists and health and wellness coaches. I met with a doula. I met with, like a midwife, and I was just empowering myself with all this knowledge and sharing it with my girlfriends and how excited I was. And I realized that, I wasn't alone. There were so many women that were like so curious about all these things and how they all, played into having a healthy pregnancy and a conscious, child and delivery. And so through that experience, I wanted to take all of this information and compile it into like one easy to access place. But it took really years to figure out how I wanted to organize it and what the core topics were that I wanted to be able to share. I mean, because as you know, there's a million different things that come up during pregnancy. And so I narrowed it down to 9 different modules, and it talks about everything from mindfulness to nutrition, our changing bodies, romance, fears and forgiveness, preparing to bring your baby home, honoring yourself, actually coming home with your baby. And then the course was all done and I was like getting ready to start all of the online, putting it up on the website and all the technical coding and all that good stuff. And then I realized, like, wait a minute, we're not talking about really anything negative that could happen. I mean, there's miscarriage, there's postpartum depression, and I hadn't even built that into it. So we spent another almost year talking about that, and me and my writer who helped me, and I guess compiling the ninth module, which is called The Unexpected. So finally it's online and it's available now. And I just had a wonderful launch party about 2 weeks ago with about 30 women in my community, the Metro Detroit area, moms, future moms. They called themselves the Dream Moms. And it was just, I had 3 experts there talking about everything from fitness and wellness. One of them was a naturopathic doctor. The other one was a a mental health counselor. And the other one was my doula. So all 3 of them offered 3 different areas of expertise to share with the group. And it was just a really amazing, loving, empowering night. Women were passing the microphone around for questions and crying and telling personal stories, like so much more than I could have imagined. I was just hoping to, like, not have an empty room. And the outcome and everything that people had told me, since then has just been so overwhelmingly positive and motivated me to, never like doubt myself, and just to keep promoting this course and trying to do what my ultimate goal is, which is empower women, empower mothers to birth the next generation of conscious, little ones to this earth. And it's just been a really incredible, start to hopefully something that's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
So is this an online course where you're talking in the course, or you're reading these different modules?
No, there are 9 different PDFs that you can read. And then we have videos that we're working on to go with them. So it's starting to evolve into more. And there's a private Facebook group that we're going to offer expert opinions and different advice for things.
That's great. You know what? When I have a question, when I have been writing my books or different materials been coming through me, it's like you have to embody it. And the embodiment of it changes your frequency. And so that you're able to actually project it or broadcast it out. And what I've realized, just so you know from my own point of view, is you have to let go of how many people get to it or how many people see it or what is supposed to happen to it. Does this make sense? It's like a baby in itself. And then it's almost more important, what I've recognized with it is the embodiment of that frequency within. It changes everyone around you it's a silent change. Does this make sense? And so,
100%.
and that's how, so all these, there's people in this world that really want to get out there and, say, see my product, show my product. And I think that all those things are really important, but there's also a silent frequency that's emitted from somebody that it has put the creative force together and to create something so powerful that then it's in your auric field of, you then broadcast it to another woman that they can do something like that. And that's how we change that's how we change this planet, is through art and different projects. And even those 30 people are now like, oh, she created that, I'll go create something. And that's how we go back to loving ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's just the timing of this is so perfect, because as much as have felt like, oh, it's almost done, it's almost ready, I can share this with the world. And then we've got, a delay for creative, or there's a delay for, the uploading or, testing it out. And then I became pregnant, and it's like, I truly am embodying all these different, modules and topics. And so when I share it, it's that much more, powerful coming from me, who's currently going through it at this point.
Yeah. So as you've been going through this pregnancy, how have you adapted some of these things to your own pregnancy?
Well, I mean, I guess one of the big things is fears and forgiveness. We talk about that a lot in my course. And, coming onto my 3rd, I think instantly the first 2 weeks I was like, oh my gosh, like, we're so settled into like family of four, and now I've got like a second baby or a third baby coming in, and I was kind of freaking out for the first couple of weeks. And then, I had to kind of go back and remind myself, like, this is the divine plan. Like, this is not, this isn't something I need to worry about. And my husband was cool the whole time and supportive, but it was just me feeling overwhelmed with the massive responsibility of now another baby. And is this going to be, something that's going to hold me back? And am I not going to be able to, fulfill this dream or that dream? And it's like, I went through all of that, and it took me a couple of weeks to like get my head right again. And thank God I have, my own, literally my own course to like go back to and remind myself, and obviously empowering podcasts and inspiring, messages that I constantly try to fill myself up with. But just that in itself, was really something I struggled with. And I, sometimes I still do. I still have like those fears that come up with like motherhood and, wanting to make sure that I'm not going to, carry on things that like I went through as a child.
Like, give us an example of like something for me. Okay. So for me, an example of something I've been fearful in my own motherhood experience is I was yelled at as a child, or, there was abuse. And so I didn't have, and it's taken me years now of like, what's abuse and what's strict and what is the range of like, of boundaries for a child.
100%.
And, like, I don't want to be my mother.
No,
I also, these kids can't, because I think what's happening with many generations, particularly like the millennials, hopefully there's, no one's offended here, but like, is because these other parents were so effed up, then the next generation says, I'm not going to do what my parents did. So then there's no boundaries.
There's the extreme opposite, right?
Yeah, the extreme opposite. And so, then those kids feel entitled.
Yeah.
And so then you're creating, neurotic children and entitled children and then these different things. And it's like, it's crazy, right?
I completely understand that and agree with you. And trust me, I mean, my mom, did, yell at us about things. She was a single mom. And that's one of my biggest fears in motherhood, is that something's going to happen. And all of a sudden this like foundation is going to be like ripped apart, and I'm going to be left being a single mom. And
you know what? That just happened to me, and I went through it, and it was my biggest fear ever. But I mean, there's nothing about it. I chose it. And so I was in a relationship with my husband for almost 18 years, and I walked away. And now my third book is coming through, which is about all of this. But the power of walking away brought me I became financially independent. I became, I left and I went to New York City. So then I never lived in New York City, nor have I ever been to Brooklyn. And I got an apartment in Brooklyn, and I moved into a church, and I created a temple. And I said, okay, let me redesign my life. If I am the creator, if I'm the conscious creator and this powerful, how can I go from, this codependent, not saying marriage is codependent, but you get into a codependency. You cannot help it.
Absolutely.
Because, we grew up together and we only knew these certain ways of being, and then these subconscious things collab or, contract on each other. So I had to go in, and every single fear came up. And every single thing of my own childhood was ripped out of me. But it brought the most intense. And so if anyone is listening, there's, being as a family is one thing. But then there's also sometimes creating a conscious family takes the separation of the family.
Right.
And so even like, and I'll go back to my story in a second, but even with birth, even all my books, Mystical Motherhood and Fertile, I talk about there's no one way to look at things. There's not like natural pregnancy or natural birth is not the only way. A C-section is another way.
Right.
Breastfeeding's fine. Not breastfeeding's fine. And also like being with your husband and then not being with your husband. Right. And it's like we have these belief systems on this is the way it should be. And I had to redefine that as I've been creating what Mystical Motherhood is like, well, what is a conscious family? Well, it's a conscious mother.
Right.
And
I think it comes back to your own like belief in yourself, your own self-love and self-worth.
And my own, yeah. And so for me to get to go through my biggest fear, which is being a single mother, I realized as I allowed like, for example, this weekend, let me give you an example. So now I've gotten to a very good healed state. I've created this beautiful temple. I've written my books. I have this flourishing career at Genesis Fertility and with the best doctors in the New York State working with fertility. Like everything I've ever wanted is happening. And I know that the next relationship is coming in. The one that I really want, the one that matches my frequency. But my frequency has to... I mean, I've been with some amazing, had some amazing relationships to follow that have really taught me a lot of positive lessons and some negative ones. But I had to go through all that in order to become the most empowered woman and the best mother, and to see that there's a different way to raise children. And sometimes it's taking them out of the environment they were in and go through the biggest fear of being a single mother. So if anyone's listening and you're like, can I leave? You can. Can you stay? Yes, you can stay. And there's no wrong way about it, but just make sure that you're going to be ready to break down fully and then rise up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an incredible story. And I think, again, it goes back to having that, like, just belief in yourself that you can overcome this, and there will be a lesson, and that this is part of the, divine plan, and not living in fear. And that's what we, that's
back to what we were talking about.
That's exactly what we talk about is, and then going through it in any sort of, I guess, not regrets or anything, but any feelings you're harboring to yourself, being able to forgive yourself for anything that you're blaming yourself for, to fully move on and embrace the next chapter, which is obviously what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's module 5, fears and forgiveness. And, that was definitely something that just, I felt like was a subject that just kept coming up. The first few months of my pregnancy was like having these freak out moments, like, and then just like I said, I was raised by a single mom and having to look back and evolve to a point where I could forgive, her for the things that she did. Or
like, what kind of things did you have to work through to forgive her? Like, what was, because these are the issues I talk about in my books, is these generational patterns,
right?
And our own fears of recreating them, and then also the ways that we unconsciously recreate them. So how do you consciously move through your own fears of recreating your mom?
So, I mean, you mentioned yelling. My mom was definitely somebody who would yell at us. If you'd ask her now, she would absolutely deny that. When she looks back on how she mothered us, it's perfect, with like, I was the best mom you ever had, and I was always there for you. But at the same time, of course, we as children look back and we remember, I don't know, for some reason, I had an overall good childhood, but my mom was a single mom. There was only so much she could do,
Right.
Like we, we struggled for, new winter boots and things like that. I mean, being able to provide for my kids a nice life is important to me and to my husband. Like I'm constantly working towards and visualizing, our success. And I feel like that comes because the way I grew up, that there was uncertainty there. And so, that's just one thing, making sure that we provide for our children a nice life and instill a strong desire for education. When I was growing up, my mom didn't go to college. She wasn't pushing this, like, you need to make sure that you're focused on your grades and that it's a top priority. That's something that I want to change with my kids. I want education to be a priority. I want them to be motivated and excited to continue their education so that they can continue to change the world and inspire, on a large scale. So, I mean, those are just a few things that, come to mind.
But don't you think that well, first off, with our parents, is we have to recognize that that's the best that they could do.
Right.
And then that's where like I have gone through such a process with my mother, and she's actually coming in town today. Right now, she'll be arriving. So hopefully my phone doesn't ring.
I'm here.
As she gets here, right? But but like, it's taken me to this point to go through my own healing. And I was just talking about this in another podcast. Is like, we have to look at our heartbreak, our biggest wounds, in order to get into the heart center, in order to really raise these kids in a different way, in order to not go into those deep reactions. We have to look at our biggest wounds, our biggest thing. And yours is probably the absent father and the fear of having that happen again, right? In some form, it goes deep into like the absent male, and then the woman that has to do it all alone without any resources. I mean, that's like the base of America.
Absolutely.
And
Motherhood, you know.
and the pain of it. It's so intense. I don't even know, like, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know my sentence to come out from there. But I had to personally go into my own pain around that too. And then to look at that. And when I went into that pain, it's actually the man that I was with for 18 years. He actually is stepping up as a father more. When I gave him the space, when he had to, he did. And they're really cool kids. Like, the kids actually are doing so well because I went so deeply into my own pain and I lifted it into such joy and the breaking of the heart and looking at those patterns and how I didn't want to keep repeating them.
Absolutely.
Right.
And one of the biggest things for my mom, as I look back on, and she just got wore down with the court cases and the custody battles and lack of resources. And I just slowly, I mean, honestly saw her fall apart, and everything from, like, you know, being all dolled up and beautiful to, you know, sleeping in bed for days. And this is one of the biggest inspirations for my course, is to remind women of how they need to pour into themselves so that they can fully give to their families.
You know, I was just talking about this. I did a podcast earlier today and published it on toxic men. But it's so I was talking about it with a client earlier this morning, and it's okay, back to pouring out love and giving it to ourselves. So what I find with relationships and I mean, we all do this, and I don't know if you've experienced this or you have friends like this, but the men tend to pour all their energy into their work. And then we tend to pour all our energy into the men. And we get mad at the men for being interested in their work, but then we are actually only interested in them. And so we're all addicted to really messed up stuff. So we as women tend to be addicted to love and over giving and over sharing and over that chakra being over, you know, but not receiving back. And the men are just focused on their work. And so we're circling in this really, really, you know, psychotic, weird field of where's the love? Where's the love? And so for me, what I've had to learn is to come back, keep coming back to myself, keep coming back to myself, keep coming back to myself. And even as I start to date new men, it's such a new, interesting process for me because I never dated. I only had my husband, really. And so as I'm dating men, if they don't text me back or if they don't ask, you know what I'm like, it's just this new thing of like, well, do they love me? Are they going to give me attention? And then I see how I give my power away.
Absolutely.
And it's such an interesting spot because I always had one husband, you know, I always had this one man, but this is this cycle that women do. I mean, do you see this with your friends or?
Absolutely. And that is another, again, it goes back to why I wrote this course, because it's so important to be reminded of your worth and your value and that you are enough. And so the tone of Countdown to Baby is like, you know, love yourself. You are enough, no matter what you're going through, even with your body image, and you transitioning through this pregnancy with your partner and just balancing romance with it. It's so easy for us to get obsessed with like approval and, you know, and that's taking, like you said, it's taking away from our own power. But, you know, that's when I turn to my meditation, my crystals, my journals, my podcasts to just home back in on like what my focus is here and not getting too obsessed with just approval.
Yeah. So what she's talking about for everyone listening is we have to know, another way to say this is we have to know our self-sabotage tendencies. And so like, we all got to know what our self-sabotage tendencies. Is it to drink wine? Or is it, you know, how do we get off track, especially when we get reactive with our kids? So like, are you tired? Are you, there's the basics of like hunger, wine, being tired, you know, like those kind of things. And then there's the other self-sabotager. So if somebody gets close, do you automatically pull back? Or do you chase after something when it's not coming to you? Or do you obsess about something over and over and over in your head until, you know, you make yourself crazy? And so these are all the ways that you get outside of your energy field. And I said it earlier today, a teacher said one time, you're living in a reality when you're creating energy. You're living in a non-reality when you're losing energy. And so most humans, 90% of the time, are living in a non-reality. And so so when you're feeling tired or you're feeling anxious or you're feeling just different things, you're not in a reality. Your thought process is a non-reality of like, it's something outside of yourself making you happy. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
And knowing these self-sabotaging things like needing acceptance, like what's your go-to thing that you create your own, complete chaotic life?
For me, when I hear that, I just think like, you're right. You're understanding those triggers and then literally being able to like stop that negative thought pattern and just again go back to, I know my worth, I know my value, I know I am enough, and whatever it takes to stop those negative thoughts. Because personally, I try so hard to every single day be on like a high frequency. Start my day off with a morning ritual.
How do you do that? What time do you wake up? How do you start your day? What do you do?
My 6:45 is what I set my alarm for. So that's for like minimum during the week to get the kids off to school. If I'm lucky, I'll roll over and my husband's still in bed with me and we'll have a little conversation or just wake up together. A lot of times he gets up even earlier to go to the gym. But I love to start my day off with a hot cup of tea, writing down my journal, and then getting the kids up. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes I'm like so tired that I push the snooze, and then I'm, making the tea, then getting the kids up, and then it's just we're 10 or 15 minutes behind all day. But I mean, I have in so many places throughout my house, I don't want to say, I have altars everywhere, but I do have a lot of things around me that remind me of like the abundance that I constantly am living in.
You
and
live
so
in
that
a devotional space. So
Yes.
That's a really good topic. Actually, I do that, talk about it in Mystical Motherhood and in Fertile, the books, but it's about creating that devotional space within your field so that your life becomes a devotion. So like this temple I created, everywhere I look, it's my own set of altars and my own set of like, this is what I want to create. And this is what I want. And this is like
Totally
creating
relate.
that base foundation so you feel safe all the time in your home, right?
Constantly, and just reprogramming myself and for this stage of life to have that feeling of you are enough, like you are guided, you are you are inspiring. Like I mean I go through the mantras like daily. I have my books out. Like these are daily practices that I do. I listen to empowering podcasts. I make sure that I'm aligning myself with other powerful women who are inspiring me, and that's just what I have found over the past few years that nothing has lit me up more than doing that and living that way.
And when you've done that and like created your space this way and created your values and made these modules, like how has it expanded your life? Like because for me doing this stuff, more money came in. The more internal work I do, the more successful I am in the outside world. And I find that none of it comes from an external looking for anything. I go in now. If I want to like call in something, it's all from inside. It's like I do nothing and I wait for it to come. Money, house, food. I mean, not food I have to order. But like like relationships, friendships, community, and it's like the more I go inside, the more it creates.
Absolutely. Right? And I mean, I write down all of my visions. I write down them and I carry them with me along with my crystals. I have my little local shop that I go to regularly and get my tarot readings. I mean, it's because, and what I found from those is that I speak my own truth. I end up, basically saying, well, this is where my life is and where I'm going. And all these light bulb moments will come up. But I mean, it's just amazing. Like the more work we do on ourselves, the more impact we have on others. And then the flow comes back to us. It empowers us more to keep going and sharing our light. And with Countdown to Baby, it has evolved into, hopefully hosting more events that impact women. I get so much fulfillment out of the personal connection, just as much as I do with, connecting to women online and receiving amazing messages about how inspired they are through following my journey. And, like you said, a lot of times you don't know how many people you're connecting with or how many people are seeing this or what the ripple effect is long term. But I mean, honestly, with all the blessings that I feel like I constantly receive, I know that all of the work I'm doing is paying off, for the greater good.
And it's so interesting you say it like that because, it's like I got paid out for my books in different ways. And like I got paid out in different, sometimes there's like, it's not necessarily about, some, like there's people out there doing spiritual work and doing work, and it's not so, it doesn't have to be so big like our ego wants it to be. It has to be whoever's supposed to receive this is supposed to receive this. The outcome of how it is given is there. And if you go with that mindset with creating and then you embody that kind of frequency, you then invite another person to be able to have that healing.
Yes.
And so, right. And so like leaving my husband or, going into my worst demons or finding that part of me that hurts so much, if I can conquer that, then I am now sitting with another woman in my practice or in, my private or practice or at my clinic, the clinic I work at and then it's a silent transmission of like, you can do this too. There's a different way to do things, right?
Absolutely. It's funny you say like you get paid out in different ways because even just putting a price on this course, I struggled with this for months. I was like, this isn't about making money for me. This is truly about sharing a message. And there are so many people around me that were like,
but you shouldn't say that because it is about making money. So be careful with your words because that's a woman's thing of like, that's a worth thing.
Right.
And so it is about making money and money is an equivalent of energy.
True.
There's different ways to look at it. It's like, is my ego doing this? It's like, you have to look at how you want to make money with it, but you also have to,
and I guess I still sort of struggle with that because I feel like I want this to be shared with so many people. And if I price it at such a price that is going to, make it unaffordable for someone, again, that's going back to, probably my fears is growing up in a low income house and not being able to reach somebody. But I'm so often reminded by people around me that how valuable it is and how much of a gift it is to put out there. So,
with pricing, you have to kind of, sorry, my mom just got in town, so I'm excited. With pricing, you have to kind of, set, I found even with my private sessions is I have different offers. So if somebody doesn't have the money to pay, I say, we can record this as a podcast, but it's still an energy exchange. So there has to be some form of money exchange, right? So or if they can pay the full price, that's the full price I am at right now. And so it's whatever you price. It's okay to price yourself where you are and to change that price.
I just started.
As your value on money and your value on your own worth changes, because money is just energy.
Yes. And I literally within the past 6 months have started like really, I guess, tuning into that entire message and understanding, money is energy and it's an energetic exchange and the value and what you put out, you get back. And so, it's just something I'm working through.
Yeah. And it's something and that's the best thing is like, you're telling us, look, I'm working through this. I'm working through this. I'm working through this. I'm aware that they exist and I'm willing to work through them is the number one most powerful thing we can do because ignorance is exhaustion and ignorance is not going to get us anywhere and it's not going to change our
Absolutely.
So what's the website people can find your course and how much does it cost? And how can they reach you so that they have any questions and what's your Instagram?
So my course is at www.countdowntobaby.com and the course is retail on sale for $197 and they can find me on Instagram at BridgetP_Morris.
Okay, wonderful. And we'll put that all in the comment section. Is there anything you want to say before we go?
Oh my gosh,
Bridget?
I just want to thank you for all of your inspiration. When I discovered your podcast, it was life changing, and I'm not even
Really? What was your favorite podcast? Which one did you like the most? So other women can listen to it.
your most recent one about this connecting with your baby and sharing the Kundalini yoga and reminding us that we have the power to connect with our unborn children. That one I've shared with multiple friends because these are conversations that aren't normal. These aren't just conversations that busy 30 some year old moms are having with each other. These are really powerful topics, and I love to take the information that I learned from amazing women like you, share them, and inspire more women and empower them with more energy to have them connect more deeply with themselves. And that's what I really take away from every one of your podcasts is a deeper connection and understanding of how to just live a more empowered life as a woman.
Yep. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. And you're doing it. So that's awesome. So, reach out to Bridget with any questions. If you have any questions for me, reach out to me at mysticalmotherhood.com. Everything is on my website. Thanks for listening, everyone.